I'm Tyler, by the way. I had a question. My girlfriend and I have differing political beliefs. We voted differently. We're both Christians. We have a lot of the same beliefs about how humans should be treated, abortion, that type of thing. But identity politics a little bit, not liking candidates based on their personality versus their policy kind of divided us. Also, prioritization of policies. So she's a little more foreign helping. And I think we should be more focused domestically right now with the damage we've, taken on the last 4 years. So how should we handle our relationship when we have a lot of the same values but differing political beliefs?
It's a really good question. So would you say that even outside of Trump, would you still largely agree on politics or no?
I think so. There's a little bit. I think that kind of plays into the identity piece. She tends to think that Trump's anti-immigrant, where I say he's anti-illegal immigrant.
Outside of Trump, like,
Yeah.
do you think that she would vote more Republican than Democrat?
I don't think so, just based off of the foreign aid piece.
Do you want the truth?
Yeah.
Do not marry this girl.
Okay.
Do not marry someone that you cannot talk about the daily news with. You guys can laugh at it. Do not build a life with somebody where you cannot agree on what daily news channel to watch. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, we can talk about it, and we agree that, a lot of the mainstreams on both sides.
You have to agree on it. I'm telling you right now, as someone who is married, when you have to instill values in a child, you cannot have the first elemental issue at 7 a.m. when you turn on the radio or a podcast to be disagreement. You got enough of that already in a home.
Yeah.
You need to have harmony.
Can I ask you like specific issues? Like we agree on abortion.
Yep.
We've talked about immigration, and I've said, Trump's not anti-immigrant, he's anti-illegal immigrant, and we need to protect our own citizens, and we do need to bring in people from other countries, but only when we can actually give them opportunities. And we agree on that type of thing. So what would be dividing beliefs?
Well, I asked what was the revealing? I asked, would she vote more Republican than Democrat? And you said, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you said not really.
Yeah.
And again, I'm only saying build a life with someone where you have agreement on the macro issues. You can have disagreement on the micro issues. You need to agree on religion. You need to agree on eternity. You need to agree on political matters. You could disagree on what type of food you like. That's micro.
Yeah.
You could disagree on bedtime, right? You could disagree on the type of cars or where you vacation. That is micro. Macro, you must be in alignment. And understand, let's just say, for example, you're raising a child. And she's like, hey, you take the son in the morning and then he'll be with the mom. Is that kid going to hear two different things? A house divided can't stand. And so that's the point, is that there must be harmony, because if all of a sudden, for example, your wife will be like, well, Trump is XYZ, and you say, well, no, he's actually this. At some point, it's like they'll look and they'll say, well, there's disunity there. So I'm a big believer in macro agreement. I'm not trying to rock your world here.
Yeah.
But do not try to change your girlfriend or your future fiance or wife politically. It does not work.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now.
This would actually be a good segue. So I was going to come here to Wazoo. I go to Spokane Falls Community College. I didn't want to live the party life, the college frat life, and I didn't want to be influenced by liberal universities. I wanted to kind of just work and go to school. And I think a big piece of her political beliefs, I hear her, she has an open mind to what I say, and she starts to agree with things. I think a lot of her life has been influenced by having two liberal parents, and then now she's in school.
Do not marry this girl. You do not want liberal in-laws. You do not want this. I'm telling you, run away, find somebody else. In-laws are very important. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you right now, as someone who's married with two kids, in-laws become embedded. You almost inherit them as pseudo-parents. And if all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh, here's Thanksgiving, here's Christmas. You should be excited about Thanksgiving. You should be excited about it, not begrudging against it. And so if you want warfare in the family, because here's the sad truth. You want the more blunt truth?
Why not?
Is she have a good relationship with her dad?
Yeah.
She'll side with him over you. Every time.
Yeah.
She will leak to her parents against you if all of a sudden she feels as if the politics is going under the marriage. Her first love is her dad. And if she has a good relationship with her dad and she feels as if that you're bringing bad ideology in there, I'm sure your mind is turning a little bit because you might have seen some examples of this. She will go back to the liberal parents against you and you'll be on an island.
Yeah. And I say she has an open mind, like I don't want to put her under the stereotypical liberal. And
I'm not saying that.
I will say it's
parents matter, though.
yeah, but with her dad, I'll just like give you this anecdote. Her dad knows how I voted, and and he's a pretty strong advocate against Trump. He hasn't ever brought it up to me. We've have a good relationship, and she has called out her dad for not having enough of an open mind, and she says that I'm torn between you two, and I think you should be less hateful.
I know. I'm telling you though, tie goes to the runner, which means tie goes to the biology, and because it's unfair for her to choose which one or the other one. You might think like I'm generalizing. This comes from over 10 years of seeing and doing this, that political agreement is a necessary foundational element when you want to try to build a family.
Got it.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
You got a lot to pray about and wrestle with. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Charlie, for going on campuses. I think this is my old alma mater. It sounds like it's Washington State University. That's where I got a degree from, the Edward R. Murrow School of Communication in Speech. And so this is one case study in a generational problem. And that is young men are trending conservative. For the first time in the nation's history, it has been pretty much every generation gets a little more to the left. Well, we finally reached the point on the left where it's utter lunacy and they're offering nothing of substance, value, or hope for young men. All masculinity is toxic. Men are inherently evil. White men are inherently racist. Men are inherently chauvinistic and domineering and overbearing and abusive. Gender is a myth. There's not binary male and female. You should be on a gender spectrum, that you should respect people's pronouns, that people with mental health and gender dysphoria should be treated like cows in India and just walk around sacred, doing whatever they want, and that men should cut their genitalia off and thank the government for taxing them. I mean, it's insanity. The progressive left has nothing to offer a sane heterosexual young male. So young men are moving to the right. They're moving more conservative, and they are going to church. And this is absolutely encouraging. If you're going to be more traditional conservative and go to church and open the Bible and trying to figure out something other than cutting your junk off and paying more taxes, that is the only path forward. The problem is, as young men are trending more conservative and Christian, this is the most progressive, statistically verifiably proven, most progressive liberal generation of women in the history of planet Earth. They have been brainwashed by feminism to think that men are evil, that lesbianism is aspirational, that murdering your child is somehow liberation and deliverance, that hating God because he's a domineering patriarchal father figure is the way to liberation and freedom. And so what you have now is the Grand Canyon insofar as distance between young men on one side and young women on the other. What this leads to is a generational crisis, because if these guys want to get married and have a family, how the heck do you find a wife if she's so far on the other side of the political divide? And I would say, yes, you need to agree on not just, are you a Christian, but do you agree on what kind of Christian are you? There's progressive, liberal, mainline Christian, quote unquote, that turn Jesus into a social justice warrior and weaponize the Bible. And all that they're doing is manipulating the scriptures to present a progressive worldview. That's mainline liberal and soft woke center evangelical churches. Well, if you're a genuinely conservative guy who believes the Bible, you marry a gal like that, every day is going to be a knife fight in the phone booth trying to raise the kids. Do we send them to the government school? Do we send them to the Christian school? Do we disciple them, or do we not, quote unquote, impose our values on our children? Do we encourage our daughters to be pro-life, or do we allow them to grow up and make their own choice whether or not our grandchildren get murdered in the womb? These are massive, massive, massive issues, and they may seem political, but oftentimes they're very practical, biblical, and spiritual. So as a dude, what I would say is, if you're a young guy, you're going to need to be very careful that you don't compromise your convictions, because the most important decision you make is who your God is. Your second most important decision is who your wife is. Those two decisions are going to determine the course of generations of your family. And he did quote rightly, Jesus, a house divided doesn't stand. And division literally means two visions. And so if you and your spouse, you have a different view of God, a different view of the Bible, a different view of right and wrong and good and evil, and that plays itself out politically, it shows that you have division spiritually and biblically. And so ultimately, this increases your odds of tension within the marriage. This creates an anxious environment in which your children grow up, and then they have a higher percentage of probability of mental health issues and depression and struggles. This will increase your odds of divorce. The highest divorce rates are between people who practice two different faiths. And I would say that Bible-believing Christian values versus progressive, liberal, woke ideology, even if it says Christian, those are two different faith commitments. That means that statistically, you'll have the highest probability of divorce by practicing two faiths in the same home. In addition, you're bringing in demonic foothold and stronghold, because where there isn't unity between the husband and the wife, there is opportunity for demonic footholds to be in the home and to divide and separate and destroy the family. So as a dude, you've got a couple of options. Number one, find a gal that agrees with you. That's what I did. Guys ask me all the time, how do you get Grace to agree with you? I don't make my wife is a very strong, very courageous, deeply convicted woman. And it's not like we thumb wrestle over the issues, and when I win, she submits. We agree. I married a woman who agrees with me, so we don't have to argue about these things. We are pro-life. We are Christian, conservative, Republican. Those are our commitments in order, and we always vote the same. We always have our entire marriage. We agree on these issues because we share worldview. And so under all of this is ultimately the issue of worldview. Do you and this woman that you want to be with, if you're a single man, do you share the same worldview? If not, you will have every issue, what church we attend, what candidate we vote for, what school we send our child to, what debates and discussions we allow around our dining room table, what friends we have. Every single issue in your marriage will be divisive. It'll be conflicted because you disagree fundamentally at the worldview level. Your politics, your economics, your church choice, your raising of your children, your educating of your children, all of that is built on the fundamental basis of worldview. If you disagree in worldview, you can't build a life together because you have division, two visions. You don't have unity, which is one vision. If you're one of these guys, you've got a couple of options. Number one, wait till you meet a gal and then marry a gal who agrees with you. Number two, find a gal who's open and teachable and humble and study with her. Do the work of, hey, let's talk about this. And if she's teachable, and maybe she's just been raised in a liberal family or she's been raised in a government school, which is a brainwashing mechanism that is successfully, like a cult, brainwashing an entire generation of largely young women to hate God and hate their body and hate their children, then maybe she just needs to be in a church and in a community where the Bible is taught, and then her worldview can be cleaned up, and that's possible. And I would say as well, you can't marry a woman unless she agrees with what I teach in a series called Leave and Cleave. And it says in Genesis that a man shall leave his mother and father, marry the woman, and that the two shall become one flesh. And in the King James, it's leave your parents and cleave with your spouse. Once you get married, you leave your family, you get married, you start a new family. And unless you and the woman agree that, like, she's not joining your family, you're not joining her family, you're starting your own family, as the husband and father, you are the head of that family, you make the decisions in unity with your wife, unless the woman is willing to understand this divine design for marriage. Charlie's right. You're in a war for the rest of your life, and kids only make it harder. So for me, when our kids got married, I said it at the weddings that I officiated. They are now a new family. These men are the head of their households. They're going to make decisions with their wife. And I told my daughter when she got married, and I love my daughter with my whole heart. I love both my daughters, but this is my married daughter. I said, honey, I've always been the number one man in your life, and I have loved that role. Today, I am taking a demotion. Your husband is now the number one man in your life, and I am in second position. When her son was born, my grandson, who I adore, I said, well, today I am going from second position to third position. I'm now the number 3 man in your life. The number 1 man in your life, of course, after Jesus Christ, is your husband and now your son. And so it really helps for those of you who are older to understand the biblical paradigm. My job now is to support, to serve their marriage and their family and accept my role as third male priority. And you know what? I can honestly say it's awesome. I love my son-in-law. We have a great relationship. I adore my grandson. If you'll come into the position, I'm here to add value. I'm here to help. I'm here to serve. I'm here to support your marriage and your family and your new priorities. Well, then it's going to work out great. Otherwise, if you're going to be domineering, controlling, overbearing, if you're going to demand that your married adult child keep you as a parent in first position, you're forcing cutoff, and that is where the children can no longer talk to you. They have to move across the country. You're not allowed to do the holidays with them, because if you're demanding to be in control, you're giving them an impossible hostage negotiation and situation, and that is, I'm in charge or you cut me off. Well, you can't do enmeshment, and so you have to do cutoff. At the end of the day, if the older generation will allow what I call differentiation, or what the counselors call differentiation, and that is we're different families, we do things differently, we have different opinions, and that's okay because your family is your family and my family is my family, then there can be peace and there can be harmony. But again, you've got so many factors at play. You've got women who are brainwashed, liberal, and they are not fit for marriage unless they have a renewing of their mind. You have brokenness and controlling families that do not allow their children to leave their mother and father, to cleave to their spouse, and to start their new family. And then every single issue, particularly those that are practical and political, they become battlegrounds between the immediate and the extended family members. And so I would tell you, if you're a young man, you've got to consider everything and whether or not you're set up for 50 years of loving, joyful success, because it's really easy to get married. It's really hard to stay married, and it's really, really hard to stay happily married.